Tonight, these four House Democrats are calling for President Joe Biden to end his re-election campaign. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries held a private call Sunday with top Democrats in the House. Jeffries himself has not taken a stance. Four members did ask for Biden to drop out of the race. This is on top of other members publicly calling for a replacement.
Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room. I got a nice firm grip on a sweeping broom, revealing dirt from under the map.
All right, listen, we're glad everybody came out today. We're going to answer all of your questions. If everybody can just calm down. All right, we appreciate you coming. Just one question. Can I get my first question? You lady in the back.
Should the president step aside, and why do you think he's resistant? And by the way, who's performing the theme song?
All right, now you're trying to be slick. That was two questions. Ladies and gentlemen, keep it to one question. One question, please. But since you asked, let me take the easiest question first. The rapper on the song was a gentleman by the name of Buddy Love, a.k.a. my man George Morgan III. The song was produced by P.A. Dre and Callie Crunk, and it's called The Briefing Room. And yes, that is the theme to this room. Second question, not so easy. Should he step down? I want to take you back. Once upon a time, y'all remember when President Biden was then Vice President Biden behind our first African-American president, the beloved 44, Barack Hussein Obama. He serves his second term. Biden is ready to rock. And all of a sudden, he gets the backroom talk. It's Hillary's time. Biden was like, in the hell? I've been in this joint 36, 37 years in terms of politics in D.C. I've been your vice president for 2 terms. I brought gravitas to the ticket. So I feel like I had something to do with this. And it's her time? Now, he played good soldier, but we all know how this works. I'm sure he was steaming. I'm sure he has some choice 4-letter words. It probably wasn't easy. He's a feisty Irishman. We all see that about Joe. But Joe fell in line and he jumped behind the ticket. And to add insult to injury, she loses. You talk about a galactic I told you so. And so fast forward to right now, Biden has had a decent run at president. Now, I'm pulling numbers from factcheck.org because Fact Check is the organization that screams on all of these people when it feels like they're leaning too far one way or another. And I'll just read you what they have. But I want you to think about this. And Joe, I'm sure, is arguing this in the midst of this storm with people saying, we need you to sit down. We need you to sit down. It says the economy added 15.2 million jobs. The number is now nearly 6 million higher than before the pandemic. This report came out in April of 2024, so just a few months ago. The unemployment rate dropped back and has stayed lower longer than at any time during the previous administration. The U.S. economy has expanded each year under Biden and is expected to continue to grow this year, although the first quarter estimate for this year was below expectations. Inflation surged to its highest level in over 40 years. You know the GOP is holding that against them. Despite recent moderation, consumer prices are up nearly 19% overall. Gasoline is up 54%. Now, I know those are some of the numbers that are being hammered home by the GOP because the big story nowadays is, well, what are you feeling in your pocket, Mr. and Mrs. Everyday America? And they're hitting on gas prices. That's something that all of us can relate to. And so those are the numbers on that. Average weekly earnings have kept the pace with prices. After adjusting for inflation, real, quote unquote, weekly earnings dropped 2.5%. The number of people receiving food stamps has decreased by more than 1 million. The S&P 500 has increased 32.9%. Apprehensions of those trying to cross the southern border illegally are up 297% for the 12 months ending in March. Crude oil production is up 14.2%. Imports are up 10.8%. Now let's go to violent crime. It says the violent crime is down. The latest figures from large cities show an 8.6% drop in murders. The publicly held debt has increased by roughly 27%, and so that's up. The trade deficit for goods and services is about 18.8% higher. The homeownership rates have barely budged under Biden. The highest homeownership rate on record was 69.2% in 2004 when George W. Bush, a.k.a. W, a.k.a. America, under George W. Bush as president. And so that's just a peek of the numbers. Love him or hate him, voting for him or not voting for him, the man has not done a bad job as president. Has he done a bad job messaging everything that's going on as president? Absolutely. I think the party as a whole is trying to figure out how do we package this thing and put it out there and let people know we're actually doing okay. But herein lies the problem. Brings us to this very topic. The messenger is just not what he used to be. Man's been in politics for almost 50 years. Damn. 50 years. This man is 81. When Reagan was trying to defend his age during his last administration, he was 69 when people were hitting the panic button on him like, damn, bro, you too old to be doing this wrong. No, I got it. Me and Nancy can do this. 69 he was. This man is 81 years old. And for me, it's not just the age. I look at everything Joe Biden has gone through with losing his former spouse and daughter, losing his oldest son, watching what's going on with his living son now. And if you watch the trial, it was so sad and so frustrating because when you talk about drug addiction, you can take gender, age, race, finances, take all of that out of it. I would think that most people listening to this show have had some sort of glimpse or run-in with drug addiction in their family. Relative, friend, a spouse. And we all know, especially depending on what type of drug that it is, that this person becomes someone else. The addiction gets in the driver's seat and it takes over. And to have all of Hunter Biden's business laid bare in the courtroom, to include him getting his former sister-in-law, Beau Biden's widow, him getting her hooked on drugs, and then them having an affair. These are things that the family has dealt with behind closed doors that they didn't have to air to the public. Again, I want you to go back to your own personal circumstances. The time that one of your relatives hit rock bottom and there was some sort of embarrassing or a series of embarrassing events that the family had to rally around. If that got out, how did it feel? So the human side of me says, damn, Joe, that's frustrating for me to watch you go through this. But this goes back to the concern. He's 81 years old. He's been on the block almost 50 years. He's gone through two presidencies or two terms with the first black president. And we all know the shit that came with that. All of this for an 81-year-old man who was experiencing a very natural aging process. Now, this takes me to his team because I got to wonder out loud, man. I keep it 1,000. Some of this shit feels like a conspiracy. I'm sitting there watching him shuffle out. I honestly thought, I don't know what I thought. I was in disbelief from watching because what I expected was what I heard from the State of the Union. Joe came out swinging. He was exuberant. He was exciting. He was forceful. He was that fighting Irishman. And when he came shuffling out for this, and then he started talking, and he started to sound a lot like this. I'm like, get the man some water, man. What's going on? And it continued. And I saw him searching for words and trying to figure out what to say. And I'm looking at Trump's reaction. I'm like, oh, damn. This can't play out like this for the entire debate. And it did. I remember once upon a time my father told me, he said, son, there's a reason why the attorney in the courtroom will say something he knows good and damn well the judge is going to strike from the records after somebody stands up and says, I object. He knows it's coming, but you can't unhear what they heard. You can't unring that bell. When they say that about Biden, in my opinion, they're not wrong. They have to figure this out. This is where it gets trickier. When I was listening to all of these pundits talking to various politicians from the Democratic Party about who they thought would be a great person to challenge, President Biden's presidency. Who should they go with? And they're talking about all of these up and comers, and you're hearing these lofty names. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. Donna Brazile said, and I'm going to quote her. She said, how in the fuck are you going to jump right past the vice president and try to talk about somebody else being nominated? I'm quoting now. That's exactly what she said. James Clyburn was on the same page. Now, if we're going to go a different route, it's got to be the vice president. Don't get beside yourselves. That needs to be dealt with. So, back to the conspiracy. Biden comes out. He's shuffling. He's stuttering. He's looking for a thought. Trump is over there clowning him. He's closing in. His golf handicap is a 6. And I'm a would-be golfer. I'm screaming bullshit on that one myself. For Trump, too, for that matter. I don't think he's all that either. But he's talking about his golf game. Then they go back and forth about the golf game. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? They're going back and forth about golf. My game, your game, my game, your game. They're like, over and now, you too old and you crazy as hell. And we don't care which one of y'all would win in 18 holes. Can we get down to the shit? But there he is, Joe Biden. And I'm asking myself, to the handlers, how y'all let him go out there like that? To his team, how y'all let him go out there like that? And I'm asking myself, is this a situation where we want to tell him that he need to hang it up? He ain't listening. We gonna give him the half-ass prep. I'm hypothesizing here. We gonna give him the half-ass prep and send him out shuffling and let y'all see what we see and play the role like, oh, he just had an off night. Wink, wink. Y'all see this shit? Is that what's going on here? I got to believe that something like that is at play because this was so obvious. And if this is a side of the president that you see with somewhat regularity, damn, just damn, you should have let somebody know. We probably need to go another way. Now, that's not for me. That's not me making disparaging remarks about our president. He has an esteemed record as a politician. There's something to be said for that. And I think that these entanglements, and I'm using it outside of the common and typical Will Smith usage, I think that these entanglements of people being involved with him personally and being one of his legislative colleagues, it's making it difficult for people to just say, Joe, we need to do this, man. I said on my other show next that this would be an opportunity, in my opinion, for Joe to hijack the America First mantra. That if Joe did this and gave a tearful speech and gave some heartfelt, rousing remarks, and he handed it off to Kamala, and he talked about everything he's been through and everything he's done to try to serve this country, but he recognizes that the democracy is bigger than he is, and he has to do this because it's the right thing to do, because democracy is at risk right now, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to hand this over because I don't want to see that happen. America is first for real in this camp. People would lose their damn minds for the good. You talk about Strange. It's you, girl. Go on, girl. You got it, Joe. Joe would be celebrated to the hills in every state if he did that. Trump would be scrambling to figure out what in the hell just hit. He's lying. That's my mantra. He doesn't mean it. America's not first with Joe. He's crazy. Joe, he's crazy. He wouldn't know what to do because it would be checkmate. But for all the reasons that I outlined in the beginning, you made me sit down when I didn't deserve it, and she didn't deserve it. And she ran, and she took a lot of things for granted, mainly the black vote. She took a lot of things for granted, and she lost. And I said, I'm going to run against this dude after he's done with his first term and get his ass up out of there. And Joe ran against him after his first term and got his ass up out of there. So Joe said, don't give me this. I need to sit down. You did it once to me, and it blew up in your face. That's what's going on in the background. People are saying the largest voices in the room are people like his wife and his sister and the people that are closest to him. I'm promising you, somebody in that camp is singing this song. And Joe is listening to him like, hell yeah, I ain't doing it. And so here we are. I've often marveled at the idea of when you are making history, when you are living through history, not just history. I mean like the shit that they write about 300 years later, that they make like frontline editions about, that they make, week-long documentaries about. When you're living through that kind of history, do you know it? We are living through a time that will resoundingly be debated on college campuses 70 years from now, if we still exist as a nation in the same form, which is doubtful, but once again, I digress. This is a moment for so many different reasons. And need I even say the stakes? Should he step down? So I've outlined all of that, but I'm going to say this before I get up out of here. It's the stakes, man. The stakes are so high. The Supreme Court has paved the way for this dude to do some galactically self-serving and irresponsible shit. And they know it. And he has said, if I get in again, the election after that will be so much easier. We're going to simplify it. Now, you do understand if he gets in again, it'll be a second term. So technically, he'd be termed out. That's not dog whistle speech. That's him letting his folk know we running this shit into perpetuity if we get back into office. And you're going to get what you want, and I'm going to get what I want. And everybody else that doesn't see it the way we see it can kiss our ass and sit down somewhere. And that is the game plan that everybody is gravitating to. Your Christian nationalists who want to tell people what to do with their bodies, this is what they're gravitating to. Your politicians who want to do everything they can to try to shut borders down and tell people how to live, this is what everybody is gravitating to. Give him the hammer, because it will trickle down to us. And I think his history says that is a foolish way of dealing with Donald J. Trump. Back to your question. Should President Biden step down? As difficult as it may be for him, I hope that somebody encourages him to yes, course correct. I think we need to go another way. Doesn't mean he can't be involved. Doesn't mean he can't advise, because he obviously has a lot of good advice. His presence did help Barack Obama. But the stakes are just too high, and we don't have time to play around with this thing. So, to answer your question, yes, he should step down. All right, listen, I'm done. Nope, no more questions. That's it for the briefing room today. I'm going to come back next time. You can ask more questions. Bring your reporter. Nope, I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. All right, take care. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room. Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room.